Well, hello, comrades. I think it's time. The time has come to share my thoughts on this current situation. I don't know if you're keeping up, I guess. In these times, you cannot help but have to keep up with wrongdoings of the ones in power. I mean, looks like they keep up with you more than you keep up with them. Getting in your way from every possible source of audio and video. I guess like myself. However, I like to think of myself as someone who's real person, right? I am not sponsored by any Kremlin, damn it, associates. And luckily, I am allowed to speak the truth as I see it. And you're welcome to listen if you find my voice enjoyable. Where was I? Yeah, it's been 7 months since things started really hit the fan, if you know what I'm talking about. February 24th. I till the very last day, I don't think I believed that such things can happen. However, I will get to my background a little bit and down to the choice I've made to actually immigrate and leave Russia, well, supposedly for good. These days I probably wouldn't be able to go back safely or without taking like 6 flights or like 4 layovers or something like that. So back in, where do we begin? 1999. I was a kid when the first election happened, which brought this particular person to power. So yeah, I had no say whatsoever. Just another dude on the TV instead of this previous dude who was dancing and drinking and like shaking hands and hugging Bill Clinton. They seemed fun, at least. And this guy comes around. No one really gives attention, or it just happens, right? Then 2004 comes, and okay, this guy again, not a big deal. I was a teenager already, well, young teenager, and I had no say as well. As you know, voters' rights in Russia come when one turns 18, which I wasn't at the time. So yeah, teenagers don't care much about politics, at least back in the day. I don't know if you do, if you're a teenager. If you do, leave a comment. So yeah. And then 2008 comes around, and woohoo, I can vote. And I went. And this guy who was kind of holding the place for the guy, he seemed alright. Not not the worst person. And looking back, like 2007, 8, 9, 10th, these were not the worst years in history of my country. I mean, that president, he went to just meet Steve Jobs and was all innovative and liberal, well, as much as you can be in those type of circumstance. And I voted. I like the way Russian elections are made. There was no one else like feasible candidates. They just put the person through. There's not like America. There's two guys, well, and some other guy. So one of those two main guys wins, but it's not particularly certain who's going to do that. In Russia it's different. There's the guy and there's everybody else. I guess still is. And even the whole idea of elections is corrupted. For these past 20 years it's been pushed the agenda that elections do not change anything, and it's all already, the choice is already made. And it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy, sadly. So yeah, I have a sin for voting for this one. Funny, short, I guess it's not, you call him short, but he's not very tall. Well, it doesn't really matter. Just a descriptive term, not insulting, I hope. Below than average height, but what's average? Anyways, ranting about height. Yep, I have that little thing. I feel ashamed because my very first elections, the president elections, I made this choice. Well, other candidates were just jokes, as always. And yeah, I've stopped a little while on this little topic. Can't get over the height. Okay. So, then 2011 comes around, or 12, another elections, when Mr. Bad Guy decided to return. At that time I was on my last years of university, and I had some personal stuff going on, and those elections I absolutely did not care about. Just why bother? It's as I've said, the agenda has been pushed already. So I didn't go. I don't think I went to vote. And those protests in Moscow, one of the massive ones, I had no clue something is even going on, because geographically I lived far away from Moscow, from the central Russia. Like, seriously, I would have to take a flight to Moscow, and it would take me 8 hours to get there, non-stop, with layovers even more than that. Just to give you the idea. And when the country is so large, you don't necessarily relate yourself to the other parts of other population. You're just hanging in there in like eastern Siberia, and whatever's going on in Moscow is like, those rich people are getting bored again. I don't know if the American public can relate to that, to this one feeling I have about this whole situation. And yeah, it was his third term as a president. And then what they did, they actually changed the constitution to extend presidential term from 4 to 6 years, so giving them a little bit more time. And And that happened, and the next elections took place in 2018. Yeah, at that point I was already figuring out that something's off. And if I would touch the topic of Crimea, 2014, I observed this. I just started to work finally, had my degree, had a job, and I remember I got my first paycheck. And, well, for Russia, it was a pretty good one. At the time, it was like $800. I think maybe even $1,200. And next month, they decided to take that part of other countries' territory. And the very next month, Russian currency decided to become cheaper, like twice at least. So my $1,200 paycheck turned into $550, something like that. And yeah, that was disappointing. Like, I just really started my career, but I've already started to make twice less, 2 times less than I was supposed to. And all the prices of the goods, the imported goods, were rising accordingly. And that just kept going. I had to work more to earn as much as I was earning prior to those geopolitical achievements, let's say so. Moving forward, there was this one morning in 2016. I used to listen to the radio, like recent newscasts before going to work, like very first thing in the morning, listen to that chatter, what's going on in the world. And it was fall, like 2016, and I heard on the news that Russian troops are going to Syria. I remember how my heart just dropped down. Why? I mean, I'm sure there was some reason, but as an average citizen who was not into like this deep politics and whatnot, I was left pretty much clueless and terrified of why would they go there. Apparently to fight Americans, right? Or whoever. ISIS, I don't know. See, if you were to ask me why did they do that, it's like, just because they could, because they needed to train before something. And at that point, like probably 75% of the news were not about like actual things going on in the country, but they would talk about Ukraine on and on and on, as if it was more important than actual politics in Russia, like hospitals or whatever's going on with human rights legislation. Yeah, it was just not the prime topic of discussions. I'm about to get to the point, cut to the chase of that exact moment I have realized that I need to leave. Just whatever happens, nothing good is about to happen, and I do not want to connect my life with this country who's up for some, I don't know, who knows what at the time. So my profession, my education is related to medical field. Yes. And as any other medical doctor in Russia, I had to go to this little establishment facility. Every time I would get a new job or change address, I would have to go to this another checkpoint, let's say so, to say to them, here I am, and in case you need me, you would know where to find me. In simpler words, in case of war, as a medical personnel, I would be obliged to go there. And in 2018 or 17, I got my new job in a clinic, and I had to go to that checkpoint. And they have informed me, put little sticker in my little military paper. So I would quote, as I remember. So in case of draft, I would have to be obliged to come and show up at the certain address within 24 hours. And I would not, they would not have to summon me in any special way. If there's a draft, I'd have to go with 1 day worth of provisions and some basic necessities. So previous years, I was working since 2014 up until 2019. In those previous years, they wouldn't put this little sticker in my military documentation. I was just, okay, here you are, okay, whatever. It's just a basic formality. Maybe that, I was freaking out about a sticker. Well, yes, I believe so. If it would say something else other than what I've just described, for sure, just a sticker, you can stick it up yours, But I didn't get scared, I just became deeply concerned. So 2016, I have started to seriously consider immigration. Yep. This is how it happened. But I've actually moved 3 years later because you cannot just hop the fence and hope for the best. I had to make it legit, had to make sure that I would land in a country which would grant me permanent citizenship and permanent residency and citizenship consequently. And yes, in a couple of weeks I am applying to be Canadian citizen. And if you possess any other citizenships in Russia. It's like, nah, we cannot really do anything to you because why mess with you? Well, I would hope that that's the case at least. It's some thing that grants you freedom, and I will happily become one of Canadians in a year or so. Who knows what are the waiting times are these days. So yeah, this is my little story of true reasons for immigration. Everything else is just the way I had to get where I've ended up for now. Who knows? Who knows? Well, at least I'm sure that Canada will not try to annex, I don't know, Montana, or whatever, or Alaska. Well, they can try, but nah, that's not happening, right? Right? Okay. And coming back to this whole situation that is going on. I just watch the updates. I met some Ukrainian refugees and it just leaves you speechless, terrified, and helpless. Because what other choice do you have but to leave? If, for speaking your mind, if you dare to have some different opinion, you can literally go to jail. Yeah. This little platform would let me just, I guess, let the steam out. But it doesn't help the situation. I hope it all's gonna be over soon. And my country where I was born will set its mind straight on the path of well-being, recovering, paying off the debt. I don't know how many years it's gonna take to be forgiven. If that's gonna happen ever, like probably not when I'm alive. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, that's the opinion of an insider, so to say, who saw that something's off and saved myself from being there. I just realized that I'm fortunate enough to be able to live in a country which does not start what my own country has already started. I hope you have a good night. And I wish that peace would prevail finally in the end.